fantasy football fans. I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer for RealTime Fantasy Sports, and welcome to another edition of the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. On today's show, I'm going to give you 5 sleepers for Week 10 of the fantasy football season. These are 5 guys, might be under your radar a little bit, but you might consider using them in your fantasy lineups. Plus, there are some tough buys this week because Kansas City's off, Atlanta's off as well, so those are some top offensive fantasy players that won't be playing this week. You'll be needing some holes to fill, and these guys that I'm going to give you on this list could be worth considering using for your fantasy teams. All right, my first sleeper is Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. So I know it is tough to trust a rookie, especially in a position that's so deep this year with the quarterback spots producing so well. But Tua, I think, has some upside for this week. He had his best game as a pro last week. He went 20 of 28 for 248 yards and 2 touchdowns without a turnover. He also ran for 35 yards. That was very encouraging to me. That gave him just fewer than 24 fantasy points on the day. If he keeps running the ball, that'll really help his fantasy numbers as well. And he plays the Chargers this week. They allow the 5th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. I think Tua is a good spot playing this matchup. So if you're looking for QB help in Week 10, I would consider using Tua Tagovailoa. My next sleeper is Jaguars tight end Tyler Eifert. So rookie quarterbacks tend to look at the tight end, kind of a safety valve type thing, and Jake Lutton did that last week. Eifert had a season high in receptions and yards. He had 4 catches for 48 yards on 5 targets in Lutton's first start of the season, and Eifert played very well with the rookie quarterback at the helm. That could be the case again this week against Green Bay. They could be playing from behind in this game, having to throw the ball often. That means more targets for Eifert. I think this bodes well for Eifert. The tight end position is not very good this year, very top heavy. So if you're looking for an option, I think Eifert's a good spot play in this matchup. My next sleeper is Raiders receiver Nelson Aguilar. Aguilar scored another touchdown last week. He has scores 4 or 5 games. He's a top red zone threat in this Raiders offense. There's not many Raiders receivers you can trust right now outside of Aguilar, in my opinion, because Aguilar is the guy finding the end zone for Las Vegas. And they play Denver this week. They have allowed 14 passing touchdowns this season. That means Aguilar could find the end zone once again in Week 10. My next sleeper is Bears receiver Darnell Mooney. So Mooney was targeted a season high 11 times last week. He had 5 receptions for 43 yards, giving him 5 receptions 2 straight games. He has been getting more and more looks in the offense as the season progresses for the Bears. I expect more of the same this week against Minnesota. Minnesota allows the 3rd most fantasy points to receivers, so I think Mooney's worth using as a number 3 fantasy receiver in Week 10. My last sleeper for Week 10 is Steelers tight end Eric Ebron. So Ebron scored a touchdown for the 2nd straight game last week. He has double-digit fantasy points 3 straight games. He is actually 5th overall tight end scoring his last 3 games and 12th overall in the season. He plays Cincinnati, a team that allows the 2nd most fantasy points to tight ends. I think Ebron's set up for a big showing in Week 10. And like I said, that tight end position is very top heavy this year. Ebron gets overlooked a little bit, but I think he could do very well in this matchup and is a good low end number 1 fantasy tight end moving forward. All right, those are my 5 sleepers for Week 10 of the fantasy football season. Hopefully you have a lot of success this week and win all of your games. This has been Jeff Paur for RealTime Fantasy Sports. Have a great day.